Hello, this video tutorial is about Neo-Riemannian Theory and Triad transformations. Elementary and compound transformations will be presented in the Tonnetz diagram. You will learn their characteristics, the root cycle analogy in the Schillinger system and example applications in film music. This video is a practical introduction to Neo-Riemannian theory and the representation of major and minor triads, called Klang units, in the Tonnetz diagram. You will learn about both elementary, that is simple, and compound triad transformations. There is an analogy with root cycle patterns in the Schillinger system. I'll present all possible transformations and demonstrate their application in functional music with very short examples. This is the Tonnetz diagram, which serves as a tool in Romantic and late Romantic music analysis. Typical examples are compositions by Schubert and Wagner, where characteristic triad movement and modulation schemes involve so-called chromatic mediants, roots at 3 or 4 semitones apart. This analytical approach is named after musicologist Hugo Riemann and returned as part of transformational theory in the 1980s with the book by David Lewin as the prime representative. The Tonnetz has a triangular grid with pitch class set names at the note points and the resulting major and minor triads in the triangles. This example grid is centered around C and C minor. Since the chromatic scale is periodic through octave transposition or enharmonic pitch labeling, there will be multiple occurrences of these triads, as shown here for D major. Riemannian transformations have been assigned a specific narrative value that will trigger a listener emotional response. These non-diatonic triad movements by thirds have an operatic flavor and have returned in various film music genres, mostly of the symphonic, epic, suspense and dramatic kind. You may want to read some background material. The master's thesis at the top is a great and easy reading introduction. The application in film music, with many examples discussed in detail, is the journal paper by Heine. Finally, I do recommend the Lewin book on generalized transformations, but with some reserve. It is full of mathematical and symbolic notation, and myself I can only read it in small portions, trying to unwrap the practical and useful aspects in it. Here I've marked the Tonnetz diagram with root cycle patterns, a theory of harmony concept in the Schillinger system of musical composition, and that I've discussed in so many other videos on this channel. There is a nomenclature introduction tutorial that you may want to watch when you are unfamiliar with the system. In this episode I'll show the equivalence between Riemann transformations and Schillinger root cycles in the diatonic and symmetric harmony system. The latter subject is also covered by a separate video. In section 2 you will meet the 3 elementary Riemannian transformations. These are the P, R and L transformation, which stand for the major triad moving to the parallel minor triad C minor and to the relative minor A minor. The L transformation is short for leading tone exchange. It is the major triad moving to the minor chord on the major third above. Here that is C major going to the E minor chord, which includes the leading tone B in the C major diatonic scale. These elementary transformations are diatonic in character, the roots moving by thirds, while having 2 common, 2 overlapping pitches. Starting from a major triad, the chord type will change to minor. We may also use inverse transformation, going from a minor to a major triad, as we will see later in this video. I'll present all possible simple transformations, starting with the P transformation from C to C minor. Here it is shown in the Tonnetz diagram and in staff notation with stepwise voice leading to the nearest neighbor pitches in the target chord. Moving to parallel minor implies 2 constant pitches, here the C and G. The chord root does not change, which Schillinger labels as R0. The chord structure type does change though, from major to minor. We may find these movements on several degrees of the diatonic scale. as the examples tonic and subdominant degree major to minor demonstrate. You will now see an example application of the LP-transformation. Based on the chord progression from C to C minor, I've generated an instrumental form, another Schillinger system concept. It involves creating realistic parts for musical instruments. May they be real acoustic, virtual or electronic instruments. In this tutorial, I've limited myself to an orchestral setting using only the Spitfire Audio Symphonic Library samples. The first application is a passionate cinematic mood phrase in 4/4 time signature and at fairly slow tempo. A number of musical elements appear when converting the chord progression into an instrumental form. I prefer to add some harmonic interest to the pure triads, here with added nines. In the lead melody for woodwind and strings there are 2 appoggiaturas. The third element is a countermelody, a descending scale in the French horns. Listen to this LP-transformation example. With the R transformation from C to the relative minor triad A minor, the root moves down a minor third, and the 2 overlapping pitches are C and E. The smooth, stepwise voice leading shows the target chord in first inversion position. This transformation is possible on 3 degrees in diatonic C major, starting from the tonic, the subdominant and the dominant degree. We see this progression frequently with the target chord as a substitute chord for the source triad. The instrumental form in the application example for the R transformation yields a romantic slow-tempo waltz. The prime element is a lead melody in celesta with various appoggiaturas, such as the major 7B leading into the root C and the approach from below for the third in the A minor chord. In the string accompaniment we see appoggiatura chords, combining what Schillinger calls diatonic and chromatic directional units. The third elementary transformation is the leading tone exchange. The root moves up a major third, in Schillinger parlance R-3, which is a weak progression. The E minor triad contains the pitch B, the leading tone in diatonic C major. Common pitches now are E and G. This transformation is possible on the tonic degree 1 and subdominant degree 4 in major, and again we may use these as substitute chords for the starting triad. The cinematic application example is a medium slow espressivo in 4/4. You'll see added nines in the basic harmony, set as pounding 8th notes for French horns. The lead for flute and high strings uses chord pitches only. The harmony consists of first inversion position chords with the 3 in the bass. Next we look at the inverse elementary transformations, moving away from a minor chord. The inverse parallel transformation, written as P single quote, has 2 common pitches, C and G, and corresponds to Schillinger diatonic root cycle R0, while the chord type changes from minor to major. We find this chord progression on 3 degrees in C major. I will not illustrate this transformation as it is more or less mirroring the P transformation from major to minor. The inverse R transformation brings us from a minor chord to the relative major triad, with the root at the minor third above. Smooth stepwise voice leading yields the target chord E flat major in second inversion position with pitch B flat in the bottom part. The other pitches remain constant. The list of possible chord progressions shows 3 diatonic root movements in minor or major key. All of these are weak due to the R-3 root movement. The inverse leading tone exchange transformation from a minor chord moves the root a major third down, in this example landing on A flat major, with overlapping pitches C and E flat. In the list of possible occurrences of this transformation, I've added the non-diatonic option that goes from the minor 4th degree to the lowered 2nd degree major triad, better known as the Neapolitan chord. That completes the overview of the simple, elementary Riemannian transformations. Here you see the analogy between root movement in Neo-Riemannian Theory and Schillinger diatonic root cycles. In the horizontal direction, observe the positive root cycles to the left, implying the root moving a third down, with negative root cycles in the opposite direction, towards the dominant area. The R5 cycle is obtained by repeated application of R or L transformations, not discussed further here. The R3 cycles will return in a different form in the next section. Things become more interesting when considering compound transformations, here referring to a series of 2 elementary transformations. We read these 2 character combinations from left to right, indicating the movement from source to target triad, skipping the intermediate chord. Thus, starting from C major, we find the compound transformations PL, PR, RP, and LP, that will be considered in further detail in the next subsections. The root pairs are known as chromatic mediants, since we will not find these in diatonic 7-pitch scales. The intervals between roots are 3 or 4 semitones. Compound transformations have a single common pitch, and there is no change of chord type. We start and end on a major triad. Of course, compound transformations are also possible for minor chords. Root movement for compound transformations corresponds to the Schillinger symmetric harmony system root cycles R plus or minus 3i and R plus or minus 4i, shown here as diagonal arrows. And what is highly relevant for the application in cinematic music, they may receive a narrative label in film or opera. Here I quote from reference 2, which puts name tags on these chromatic mediant progressions. 2 major triads a major third apart evoke the magic response, whereas when they lie 3 semitones apart, we associate them with hero character. Pairs of minor triads are used less frequently in film music, but when they lie at a 4 semitones interval, we may give them the label Vader from the use in the Star Wars music. And this corresponds to an eerie or sinister narrative. At a minor third interval, there is another Star Wars music label, Palpatine, and the connotation is uncanny or sorcerer music. You'll find chromatic mediants due to compound transformations in Wagner operas and in film music by composers such as Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, Howard Shore and Danny Elfman. And this approach has been copied many times, becoming an obligatory cliché in epic and dramatic film music. Time to visit the first compound Riemannian transformation PL from C major to A flat major. The single common pitch is C, the root moves 4 semitones down. With smooth voice leading, the target chord is in first inversion position. The list of possible cadences contains chromatic mediants only, since these major triad pairs do not occur in diatonic scales. The PL example is a medium tempo dance. In the instrumental form, we find the harmony, the C major triad in root position, and the first inversion A flat major as 8-note arpeggios in bassoon and low strings. The lead theme has appoggiaturas and is imitated between 2 unisonant trumpets and woodwind. The final element is a descending scale in the high strings. Listen to the audio rendering and verify the narrative value of this application example for yourself. The compound PR transformation brings us from C to E flat major, implying a negative and weak root movement R-3I. The common pitch is G, that is, the chordal function 5 becoming the third. Again, there is no occurrence of this chromatic mediant pair in diatonic scales. The instrumental form setting is a medium-slow brass fanfare. Both major triads are in inversion position. In the lead we hear passing tones such as the pitch D in the C major chord and appoggiaturas such as the F in the E flat major triad. The chord inversions yield a dominant pedal point on G in the bass. Is this heroic music? The RP transformation moves a minor third in the downward direction, from C major to A major. The overlapping pitch is E, the Schillinger root cycle is a strong R3I. Stepwise voice leading changes the target chord inversion position, and again, this is a chromatic mediant type chord progression. The instrumental form created for this RP example is a medium tempo joyful phrase. The musical elements involve root position chords and a harmony, lead melody imitation in the woodwinds, embellished with neighboring and passing tones, and appoggiaturas. As a contrasting element, there is the 8-note groove in the marimba and the tremolo chords in the violins. The narrative label, according to Heine, is once again hero. The LP compound Riemannian transformation yields the target chord E major, when starting on C major. The overlapping pitch is E, the symmetric harmony system root cycle is a weak R-4I, a major third up. Again, stepwise voice leading implies a change in target chord inversion position, and this is another chromatic mediant progression. Now, the instrumental form is a lively hunting dance in 6/8 time signature. The target chord E major is presented in second position inversion. In the main theme for two trumpets, note the inverted horn fifths, and the passing tones in the horn section answer. The contrasting element is a series of legato patterns in woodwind. Does this evoke the response magic? We move on to the 4 compound transformations starting on a minor triad. The leading tone exchange parallel compound transformation brings us from C minor to the A flat minor triad. The common pitch is E flat, the Schillinger symmetric harmony system root cycle is R4I, a major third down. Progressions are of the chromatic mediant type in minor, such as from the tonic minor degree to the lowered 6th degree minor triad. The application example is a slow suspense mood music cue. The musical elements in this instrumental form are the two chords in root position S5 and the melody, which consists of an ascending arpeggio in the celesta part and descending triad arpeggios in woodwind. Sorry for omitting the tremolo string part in the score of this eerie, sinister phrase. The inverse relative parallel compound Riemannian transformation connects C minor with the E flat minor triad. The overlapping pitch is E flat, the root of the new chord. Root movement involved a weak upward leap of 3 semitones, a minor third. A possible progression could be the chromatic mediant move from tonic minor degree to minor third degree. The orchestral setting here is a fast, espressivo, thrill or chase music. In this instrumental form, observe the added sixth in the minor chords. The C minor chord is in root position, the E flat minor triad in second inversion position. There is a lead theme for low woodwinds and brass. As contrasting elements we have the pulsating bass and percussion instruments, the obligatory brass staccato patterns and the woodwind arpeggios. Myself, I'm not sure I would label this as sorcerer music. The third compound transformation in minor is inverse parallel relative, going from C minor to A minor, with the root C in the starting chord becoming the 3 in A minor. The Schillinger symmetric root cycle type is R3I, the descending minor third. Again, you will not find this pair of minor triads in a diatonic context. It belongs to the category of chromatic mediants. The instrumental form yields a fairly slow misterioso setting in 3/4 time signature. It is a simple cue with a low woodwind harp and low strings playing the lead theme, that is derived from the set of two minor triads in root position. The contrasting element is a high string countermelody, a tremolo descending scale. This is a form of the generalized passing seventh, a Schillinger concept discussed in a separate video. This indeed I would label as supporting an uncanny narrative. Finally, we meet the PL transformation in minor, going from C minor to the target chord E minor. Now the chordal function 5, the G, becomes the 3 in the E minor triad, while the root cycle is a weak R-4I. The chromatic median progression option is a modified tonic to 3rd degree in major. The application example is a tragic cue in irregular 5/4 meter. The harmony consists of the root position C minor triad followed by the second inversion position E minor with pitch B in the bass. The melody is played in two-part consonant parallels by woodwind, horns and violins, rising to a climactic apex at the end. The contrasting element is the 16th note riff pattern for violas and piano. The Heine narrative label is eerie sinister. I would like to conclude this tutorial by having another look at combinations of major and minor triads along the diagonal minor third and major third root axis in the Tonnetz diagram. The R3I axis yields symmetric roots C, E flat, F sharp and A that together form a diminished seventh chord. Symmetric octave division along the R4I axis gives us the roots C, E and G sharp, an augmented triad. Combining major and minor triads on two of such roots leads to symmetric scales. Along the R4I axis we combine C major, C minor and E minor. The result is the 6-pitch symmetric scale 3I plus I, also a Messiaen mode. It is used in the third movement of the Bela Bartok Concerto for Orchestra. The scale also contains two favorite Bernard Herrmann film music 4-part chord structures, the major 7th chord with a raised 5th. And the minor chord with raised 7. Applying the same process along the chromatic mediant axis R3I, we combine the C major, E flat major, C minor and the E flat minor triad. Thus, we obtain the octatonic symmetric scale I plus 2i. This is a frequent element in early Stravinsky music. The scale also contains a number of 4-part chord structures that may be labeled as lengthwise structures, or jazz sharp 9 chords. I've discussed these in my video on 12-tone chords with minimum tension and in the series on harmony tension control with pitch class sets. Here are 2 books that discuss these chord types in greater detail. We've reached the end of this tutorial that served as a practical introduction to Neo-Riemannian Theory and Triad transformations. We started with the 3 elementary P, R and L transformations and saw the analogy with the Schillinger root cycle concept. The narrative function in film music became important when discussing compound transformations that lead to chromatic mediant chord motion. All options were demonstrated in short application examples with specific instrumental forms. In later episodes I'll use this Triad transformation toolbox in longer chord progressions and I'll proceed with higher order Riemannian transformations. If you enjoyed watching this tutorial, please give it a like or better, subscribe to the channel. You may help growing this channel by sharing or embedding the video. If you would like to support my production and knowledge sharing efforts, use the link to the PayPal donation button below. Visit the website for more content or purchasing ebooks from the webshop. See you next time. Thanks for watching.